Well, here we are, part 5 of building the body on this little Roadster here. So I'm nearing completion, getting down to a bunch of little things that make it look like the real car. But I'm still working on the rear cover. You know, I'm getting sick of looking at that thing. I want to get it done. But I still have to work on routing the engine header, you know, down through the body work. And then I'm working on the steering wheel. And I have the seat blank. It's over at the upholstery shop right now. Then I have to get a decal racing number, align the wheels, make a license plate, and try to come up with a hood ornament, then make a windshield. Gosh, I guess it isn't nearing completion, but it's almost done for the trip to Titan for the Titan Grand Prix number 3. So. All right, onward to cutting the hole in that rear cover. So I've taped off the area that I'm going to cut out, and I'm going to use, got a die grinder here with a cutoff wheel on it. So let's see how this goes. It's going to make a mess. That's a cool little piece. That's the pattern for my screen. So this will clean up easy with the 80 grit block. Here's a closer look. Cut out of there real easy actually. And the structure is still strong. It's always a little soft there, but I can fix that. But see here, it's strong. Strong here too. So I'll clean up these edges. And then I'll show you the screen I'm going to use that I found. So I'm using this piece that I cut out for the basic pattern. But what I found was this is hexagon perf metal, I guess is what they call it. But I got it down at Metal Supply Company. It's probably 18 or 20 gauge, I'm guessing. It already has a slight curve to it. But if I set it up here, get it on there. So I picked this because it would breathe good and because I could shape a little crown into it without too much effort, I don't think. So that should afford quite a bit of ventilation, but you'll still get the feeling, the shape, you know. I'm happy with the way that looks. And I didn't find that till yesterday. And then I've been thinking about how I'm going to, my connections here. And I had this idea in my head, but then 10 minutes ago I thought of something else. So this is an example of where if you don't have it all figured out, it kind of comes to you when you get there. So I'll show you what I have in mind here, see if I can make it work. Well, I finished designing the screen portion of the rear cover. I've got it all figured out, and I was going to do something different, but this kind of came to me tonight. So let me show it in more detail here. Okay, so here's the rear cover, and then these are aluminum strips that go all around on top, and that kind of strengthens the fiberglass. But then there's a lower level here that the screen sets on, ledge for screen. So the screen will actually set on top of this ledge all the way around. All right. There's no ledge right there for a reason, and there's a wider ledge here because this is where I'm going to have a couple of threaded holes, and I'll show you what I'm going to do there. And I'm using a little bit thicker aluminum here than the 032. I'm using 50 thousandths. So let's see here. Now, if you look at the screen by itself, I've added a little bracket here. It's a little slip bracket. I built some model control airplanes, and this is a method we use for holding a hatch on a fuselage. So I'm adapting it to install the screen because I come to realize this screen's got to be removable so I can add gas and reach down in to mess with the motor. So that's what these thumb screws are all about. They're going to go down into these threaded holes here. And I'll put a little piece of steel under there to thread. And they'll be loose. So you unscrew two of them. And then this slips out from underneath here. And so two of these thumb screws, and that screen comes off. Otherwise, it's held in back here by this little piece of metal and the two thumb screws. Now, because this is curved, it'll apply pressure to this ledge, and so it'll stay in there nice and tight. It'll be under tension when I tighten it down. Now, here's a more detailed view of that. Here's a section of what all's going on here. It looks complicated, but it's really not. This dark line through the middle, that's up to a point, that's the fiberglass cover, and then it's the screen, and then the fiberglass cover starts again. So here's that slip joint. It's attached to the screen, and you slip it underneath there, and then this is the ledge right here, this lower, and as you bring it down, it's under tension because it's curved. And then the thumb screw goes through all the layers and is threaded. So that's nice. So that's this piece here. This strip is at the front only. And back here, here's the rear slip joint bracket. And there's a strip right here that it slips under. That strip's only at the rear. So actually, I think it'll work pretty good. It'll stay put. And it'll be easy to remove so I can add fuel. I'm down here at the shop, and I'm going to use this foot shear here to cut some strips for the, so I can put that screen together. I've had that finger brake over there for years, and I've had this shear for years, and I use the brake on occasion. But the shear, it fell over one time when we were moving it, so it was all out of whack. So just recently we got it dialed in. So let's see how it cuts. I'm cutting 50 thousandths aluminum, so it should cut all right. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to cut a 19-inch piece, and then I've got to shear some strips here. Okay, so I'm cutting some half-inch strips here. So I just make a little mark. Put it up against the fence here. Slide slide it up to the blade. There. Okay, so I've got enough of those. So these turned out good. Cuts this aluminum pretty easy. We usually cut 18 gauge steel. Okay, so I need one at 7/8. So there's my 7/8 inch pieces. The 1/2 inch pieces. This is more than enough. 1 1/4, 2 inch. All right. That's a lot better than using the bandsaw. So that'll save me some time, I think. I'm going to use the finger brake to make this little slip joint here, at least the first bend. And this thing's only 4 inches long when it's finished, so I can make the second bend without too much trouble. So now I'm going to use this finger brake here and make that first bend on the 1 1/4 inch piece. Okay, now I'll bend this at a 90. Here I'm installing the first strip. Here's the top strip and the bottom strip. So the screen is going to sit down on this ledge right here. I managed to get this first strip screwed down, and I taped a piece of the screen there so you can see how it's going to be. So the thickness of the screen is just ever so slightly less than these two thicknesses, so there's a slight recess, which I think will look pretty good when it's all done. So that's the direction I'm going. I got to put on this other side, and then the front and the back, then make the screen part. It took me an hour or two, but I managed to get all the metal around this opening. I'm happy with it. So here's the ledge where the screen sits, and then you'll notice there's no ledge here because that's where the hook is going to go. And then up here, this is wider because that's where I'm going to put some steel under here that I can thread, thick enough to take a few threads. And then I'll have a thumb screw here, something small, and over here. I saw a nice selection of thumb screws down at the hardware store, so I'm sure I can find something I like. So now I can make the screen part. Okay. Here the screen is cut pretty much to size. Needs just a little bit of finesse work to get it to fit in there just right. But I like the looks of that. So I have to make the little slip joint piece that goes here that'll slip underneath. Then I have to put a strip across here where the thumb screws will be. But I think that's a nice addition. It's been a lot of work though. Sheesh. When I dream up these schemes, I think to myself, oh, this is going to be easy. Well, this little framework here has turned out to be a bunch of parts and pieces, but I am getting it done. I managed to install this piece here, but I have to relieve the lower level there so the nut and bolt won't get in the way. These 3 red marks, those are going to be the thumb screws. Here's the thumb screw. It's a 1024. Not as vintage looking as I'd like, but they'll do for now. Maybe I can find some cool little old looking knob. And then I got this piece, and then here's my slip bracket right here. Spent a fair amount of time on this thing. So this joins with this other piece to create the tab. This tab will slip under here, and that'll hold that in, and then as it follows the curve, the thumb screws will pull it down tight. At least that's the thinking. Alright, we'll see how it turns out. Well, I think I reached a milestone on this cover. I finished the mock-up work on this removable screen. I have a little bit more work to do on it because I have to take it off of there so I can sand the cover, get that all ready and smooth. And when I have it apart, I can finesse some of the things. But, you know, the slip joint, even though it was a bear to make, it works good. I need to file it a little bit here so it's even, but that's minor. And then the screen needs just a little bit of shaping to lay down just right. Pretty close though. Same thing here, I have to bend this a little bit. I have a nut on the end of this stud for now until I get the steel in that it's threaded. But that was a challenge. Sheesh. The shape is good though, and it should breathe well. You know, it's a necessary evil with the cycle cart. And okay, I'm happy I'm past that. On to smoothing out this cover, and then I have to work on the tail cone. It's a little bit dusty in here, up in the air. I'm doing the initial sanding with 80 grit, and that knocked it down, smoothed it out quite a bit. But I'm going to take the cover off and add 1 or 2 more layers of epoxy, and eventually I'll skim it with something to smooth it out, but it's a lot better now. All that work on the rear screen condensed down into a pile of little pieces. I spent most of a day and a half working on that one. I'm working on this setter web to the steering wheel. I've got it clamped down and I'm getting ready to drill the holes for the quick disconnect. Then I laid it out. I'm going to make some little bends here before I weld it to the ring. I'll show you that in a minute. So I'm going to get this thing drilled out. I finished welding up the ring, the rim, steering wheel rim, and now I've just kind of loosely bolted this together with the quick disconnect, and then this is the part to an Isuzu go-kart steering wheel. So I'll put the bends in here, and then the challenge is getting it located just right on this rim to get it welded. So when it's done, it'll have a slight dish to it. Okay, let's see how it turns out. One of the challenges to make this dished center section here is to bend these at the same angle. So I have this little bevel tool here, which I set on here, and then I can get what I want. So right now I have 5/8 of movement. So I decided to go a little bit more. So I made some reference marks. You can see it right there. So they're all clamped in the same way. And then I have my persuader here. Alright, so I'm going to bend them just a little bit more. Well, I've been whittling away at this thing. I almost have it there. It's still just a little bit long. If I can do it just right, it'll press fit right in there so I can put a magnet or 2 on it and get it welded up. Okay, I added a 1/4 inch more to the angle. So I'm at about 7/8 total rise. And I'm getting close. It's fun kind of designing as you go, not really knowing for sure what it's going to look like till you get there. But I'm trying to get to be right in the middle of the 1 1/4 tube. Yeah, I like that that amount of dish better too. Okay. One of those little things that could sneak up and ruin your day if you're making a steering wheel is welding it all up before you make sure that it's centered within tolerance of a couple of turns of the heim joints there. You know, you want a steering wheel to be straight when you're driving straight. So that's what I'm doing now, and it's looking good. It's within a couple of turns either way. I can align the wheels, and the steering wheel will be centered. It's not welded yet. I just have it resting there, so if I pump the cart, it'll fall down. But I am definitely liking the looks of that. I took a chance and went with a 1 1/4 instead of 1 inch. I just wanted a beefier wheel. It almost looks too thick, too big, but I don't know. It's kind of mean looking. So I'm going to stick with that. Win, lose, or draw, I'm going to weld it. I've got it all set up, ready to go. It's as even and level as I can make it. So let's go for it. I managed to get it welded. It's still hot. I wish I could weld better. But I got it done. Okay, let's see. I started on this steering wheel after work today, so it's taken me about 4 hours of messing with. So tomorrow night I think I can finish it up. It cooled off a little bit, so I mocked it up just for the sake of looking at it. And has a nice dish to it, which will make room for the knob I have to put here and the little arms. Okay, so not bad for the first evening of working on it. Maybe tomorrow I can get her done. I took off the rear cover because I wanted to drop the motor in here and start thinking about how this header might go. But the most obvious thing is it comes up, makes a turn, and swoops down through there. So I'm just beginning to ponder on that one. The tail cone's finished. I got it glued on. I added a piece of thin aluminum to it, and then I glued the aluminum to the foam with white glue, and then the aluminum to the wood with contact cement. It turned out pretty good. It's not perfect, but it'll do. I think it'll stay on there. Alright, more thinking about this header now. Here is the make your own header kit from NR Racing. These pieces of pipe, and then I'll show you the stubby part that attaches to the engine here in a sec. Here's the muffler I'm going to use, and then here's the stock muffler. I might salvage this part of it, I don't know, because if you look right here, you see how it's right in, it's into the side already real quick. So it's got to come up and turn right away. It's got to turn right about here, at least, ideally I would want it to swoop up and then come over and back. So I've got to play around with that a little bit and experiment. On the stock header, this comes straight up and out, which is really what I need. I think that pipe is just a little bit smaller. I don't want to restrict it any if I don't have to. Okay, I got to mess around with it. Tonight I decided to get serious about building this header, getting it figured out. So the first thing I did is I hacksawed off the first part of the header here because it had the right curve to it, which allowed me to graft in this. This is the the do-it-yourself header kit. So I cut it up, put a couple pieces together, and it just runs straight down. So from the rear, doesn't look too bad. And from the side, I also have this heat sock here, which I'm gonna put on this whole thing, and then let's see how it looks with the fiberglass cover. Here it is with the cover on. Let's see if you can get a good look at that. So there's a good amount of room all the way around it. It's not too close anywhere. But that heat sock, that'll make a big difference. Because by far the hottest thing inside this cover is going to be the exhaust. Okay, here it is with the heat sock. So if it gets too hot in there, this fiberglass cover up here will warp a little bit. So I may end up bolting on a little piece of flashing or something, a little heat shield. Never hurts to be cautious. I'm getting closer to finishing this rear cover. I put 2 more coats of epoxy on the outside and 1 on the inside, and now it has sufficient build to where I can work the finish. I'm trying to get it in primer and do the final installation of the mock-up. But those extra coats helped quite a bit, in my opinion. Alright. For the last few hours, the license plate and grill have been in the middle of this pile of stuff, but I finished it up and I have it installed, and I am real happy with it. Nice, simple, clean. I used a similar technique on the actual plate itself. As you see, it's wrapped the same way as the grill, 1/8 by 1 aluminum. This piece of 3/4 plywood, and then that's white laminate. And then that emblem I've had since 1996 in my toolbox. So it's funny that I got a chance to use it. But I need to put an emblem hood ornament up here. I still have to design that and figure out how I'm going to make it. Don't have a lot of time, but I'll come up with something cool, I hope. I have to do a little repair here. This is from test driving. I didn't leave enough clearance for the spring movement. I got to add a little piece of body work there. And I'm also working on the windshield, trying to determine, the shape it might be, how high. This represents some kind of aluminum channel. There's supposed to be a bracket here. I don't know if I have time for that. I might just do some standoffs here. We'll see. But I'm thinking it would have a little bit of an angle to it. And one thing I've learned on Old 27 is it has a tall windshield. And if it's too close to the steering wheel, when people are climbing in and out, they bang into it. It takes kind of a beating. So, on the real Wartburg Roadster, it has a tall, squarish windshield. And I'm thinking of doing something shorter, more sport roadster looking, and simpler to build too, because I'm just flat running out of time. So it's okay, I'll get there. One little thing at a time. I'm doing a little sanding on this rear cover here, and I'm using the foam block to support it, so that came in handy. And I'm using some 80 grit to just initially knock it down. Then I'm going to do some 180, and then I'll use my hand to feel where I need to add some Bondo and smooth it out. And then I'll primer it. Alright. The rear cover's coming along. Got the first coat of primer on it, a little bit more sanded. It'll be acceptable, I think. And then still working on the windshield. Haven't figured it out. Trying to figure out an emblem here. So this little medallion here is going to be aluminum. And then I'm working on how to craft a hood ornament. It'll end up looking something like this. I think I'm going to use my lathe to turn this and create a little recess that I can put a decal into, and then this piece I'll just hand form after I bandsaw it to rough shape. I also finished adding a piece on each side right here. So if I get this rear cover done, the body is finished. Wouldn't that be nice? Still got to figure out this windshield. Well, I made a little bit more progress here. I painted the tail cone. I painted the rear cover. That's an aluminum color, at least that's what the can said. Not too bad, I like it. And you remember the steering wheel concept. So I finished that slightly different. But that only took me 2 or 3 hours to do. Alright, so I want to finish getting this rear cover screwed on and this screen in. And then the body will be done. So I'm installing this aluminum channel or strips around, and I need to put some little steel pieces. I'm going to cut this, that's 1/8 inch thick, right here where these holes are. I've got this upside down. I've roughed it up with some 80 grit. Let me turn this over. So this will fit under here like this. So I need a piece of steel underneath there for these thumb screws to go into. So I bought, let me set this down. I already had a 1024 set up, but I bought a fresh one. So I bought the tap, and then it recommends a number 25 drill bit. So you just about can't go wrong with that deal. And then when I'm done, I tape them together, and so I got a little stack of those in a drawer. But I've used the 1024 I've used quite a bit, so I bought a fresh one. So I think after I cut this steel, I'll cut it about 1 inch long. I'm going to glue it with epoxy to the underside of this. I hope that'll hold. I could do it with a piece of aluminum, but I'd rather use steel so the threads will be a little stronger for long-term use. Alright, so I'm going to make this. It's a great day in the world of cycle karting for me because the body is officially done. Whew! That one took me a while. So this is the end of the 5th video and the end of the series of building the body. So I'll walk you around and show it. I'm going to do another video which is all the finishing touches and things like that. But I could take this to Titan in essence the way it is now. It doesn't have a windshield or a hood ornament or a few other things, but it runs good and drives good, so I'll just keep plugging away until I have to load and leave. So the last little details were added in 1930 to the license plate down there, and then you can see how I painted the red cover. I lucked out. That spray paint is almost the same color as the red upholstery, which ties into the steering wheel. And then I'm happy with that silver spray paint too. That blends in pretty good with the aluminum. And the rear cover is nice and smooth. I sanded on it about 1,000,000 hours, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So, I'm happy this is done, and the results are decent for me. And I tried to build it so it'll hold up over time, not break down the first time I run it hard. So, alright. So, I'll have another video before long of all the finishing touches.